What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Turnbuckle Debate. We have another great episode of debates coming up, and we have another guest on today from our Pod Foundation family. We have Scott from Pyramid Wrestling. Scott, how's it going, man?
What's up, guys? How are you?
We're doing well. We're glad to have you on, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this one.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
So thanks for
my
having me
name's
on.
Sneed.
I'm Chad.
We have Chad, and we have...
I am the OG Fig Kid, Tom. On Twitter and Instagram, the OG Fig Kid. One of these days, it's going to get me a follow. I don't know.
And Scott, you can find Scott at Pyramid Wrestling, right, Scott?
Pyramid Wrestling on YouTube, Instagram, and because of the character count, it had to be Pyramid Wrestle on Twitter. But if you just search it on Twitter, you'll find it.
And tell our listeners just a little bit about the show, because I love the show.
Thank you. We have a podcast, myself and a guy named Mike Belcaster, that's exclusively about wrestling action figures. And Mike and I are actually a week apart in age. We were both born in December 87. So if I say like Jack's BCA something, like he immediately knows. And it's really about... we talk a lot about modern day wrestling action figures, but we're constantly referencing things from the past. We're always bringing up sort of, what we had or what it was like when we were 10. And so we'll compare and contrast things. We'd like to take polls. There's a whole YouTube where we do unboxings and toy hunts and things like that. So it's just, if you love wrestling action figures, we are just 100,000% in.
I was buying wrestling figures before you were born.
Yeah. Well, you are the OG.
Yeah.
You are the OG.
Well, how I came up with that is because I was at the store the first day the LJNs came out to get them.
Wow. So you remember buying them?
Oh, yeah. I remember calling the toy store every day for like a month. Do you have them in yet? Do you have them in yet? And this first day he got them in, I went running and got the first 4 of the 5 LJNs because the Iron Sheik was delayed for some reason.
Wow. Dude, lucky you. The LJNs were a little bit before my time. I started mainly in Hasbro, but I do love them, and I would love to have an extensive LJN collection. Only problem is I'm predominantly mint on card, and they're so expensive mint on card. I think collectively they're the most expensive.
Yeah, and I still have them all, so that's the crazy thing. I never threw anything away, even as a kid.
Wow.
Lucky you, man.
That makes it a lot easier too. I was just sitting there thinking, you said you guys are a week apart in age, and when you talk about figures with somebody, you almost have to have somebody that's within the same era that you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Because,
No, I was just going to say, we try and be open-minded to a younger audience, because I think it's fair to assume that there's a younger, maybe even predominantly our audience is younger. But when a lot of people get hung up on things, we see their point, because you have to have different standards in 2021 than you did in 1994. But at the same time, people get hung up on like a centimeter difference and say that the height is off and stuff. And we're like, dude, like Hasbro's were all the same height, and like Jack's, like Diesel and Bret Hart were the same height, and like Jack's, like we can remember stuff like that. So it's like, a centimeter, but we understand. So we try and be open-minded to the newer audience.
Yeah, we had to deal with Andre the Giant and Shawn Michaels being the same size figure. So
yeah,
right.
Totally.
All right. Well, I think we should get into what we're here to do. I think we have some debating to get into. What we'll do, Scott, I know you're a little familiar with it, but we'll do 3 topics. We do about 10 minutes a piece, probably a little bit more since we have 4 people on tonight. And we'll just give our opinions on what's going on.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Well, our first topic of the night: whose impact on wrestling is felt more today, Hulk Hogan or Macho Man?
Hulk Hogan. I'm the biggest Macho Man fan going, but unfortunately, I got to go with Hulk Hogan.
So you think his impact is felt more today than what Macho Man's is?
Oh yeah, for sure.
why is that?
Hogan. I mean, he helped build everything. Like we probably are, but you can argue maybe we're not where we are if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan with wrestling. I mean, I'm sure it would have exploded at some point anyway, and it would have become a global phenomenon. But Hogan was there for the birth of the WWF and wrestling becoming a household name all across the country.
Yeah.
Do you think if Hogan would have existed today, he would have had the "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks" chant?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Different
I agree.
crowd. I feel like the crowd today, there would have been at least 50% of the crowd would have hated his guts.
Yeah. It's not the same nowadays where they could like where they used to dictate who's the fan favorite and who's the heel. Now the fans kind of do it on their own. If there's somebody that's a heel that they like, they'll just start cheering for them. It's not the same as it was back then.
And fans today, I feel like fans are way more apt to revolt against the company pushing a certain guy. We saw it with Cena. We saw it with Roman Reigns before his heel turn. The fans were almost like, oh, this is who you're going to shove down my throat? Well, I don't want this. And it's almost like there's a big section of the fan base out there that almost takes it as an affront that the company is just going to shove a name down their throat.
But even to go with your point, even when it's somebody that's organically becoming popular, they won't push them.
Right.
And when they do, it backfires. Like with Seth Rollins, I remember when Roman Reigns was the guy, and you would hear these "We want Rollins" chants when Rollins was the Intercontinental Champion and was a babyface. And then when they finally, and maybe there was some questionable booking decision with pairing him on screen with Becky and things like that, just kind of maybe took away a little bit of his toughness. Right. But they definitely turned on Rollins and brilliantly turned him back into a heel because I think he's better suited there. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's natural for the fans to revolt against things that are being given to them. I personally think that the Macho Man might have more of an impact today simply because of the showmanship aspect is seemingly more appreciated today in terms of like even down to gear. You know what I mean? Like people are constantly changing their looks, which was something that the Macho Man was doing in the 80s. Aerial moves, which, he wasn't doing tope suicidas to the outside, right. But he was he left his feet a lot more than Hogan. And so I think that people embrace that more today, definitely than they did in the 80s and in the 90s.
I'm with Scott. I think I'm kind of torn here because I get what Tom's saying. I feel like from if you're looking at it from strictly pro wrestling as a business, the impact that Hogan left, he was arguably the first global megastar of pro wrestling. Him or Andre, I guess you could argue. But as far as like today, Hulk Hogan had that unfortunate issue that kind of sullied his name a few years back and had him removed from WWE for a while. But with that, and I feel like you hear a lot more wrestlers saying Macho Man is an inspiration to them. I feel like Macho Man was a truer pro wrestler for me. And just the image of Macho Man with like, when you think about film, you think about James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, Humphrey Bogart, these kind of larger than life iconic figures. And to me, Macho Man has almost transcended his actual pro wrestling career as this kind of iconic image of what pro wrestling is. The gear, the glasses, the toys. I mean, the guy, they're still making incredible stuff. Case in point, I get Pro Wrestling Crate in the mail. Last month, I got a pair of Macho Man socks. So it's like he's such an iconic figure to pro wrestling that I feel in that way his impact is felt way bigger than Hulk Hogan today.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that there's no question that Hogan did all the stuff that he did for the business and what he did. There's nothing, taking nothing away from him. But when you ask the question, who has a bigger impact on the business today, Macho Man for me. And it's for the reason that, that you guys had just said exactly.
You guys have kind of convinced me, bringing up the robe changes all the time and everything. And that's what made him so special back then. He had that style that nobody else really did. So that's what made him stand out. And I guess one of the reasons why everybody loved him. So It's a really interesting argument when you think about it. But
I mean, don't get me wrong. I was a Hulkamaniac as a little kid.
Of course.
I loved
Absolutely.
him as a heel. When he turned to NWO, I mean, I hated him, but looking back, it's like, man, he was such a good heel. And that was arguably one of the biggest moments in wrestling. But just when I think about just pro wrestling, and honestly, when I think of what a pro wrestler is, the first I would show someone Macho Man. And that's that's his in-ring matches, his promos, everything.
And to Tom's point, Hogan may have, in all fairness, laid down more of like what it means to be the top guy, the superstar, everything like that. But for so many reasons, I think people today, especially younger fans, if they go back and watch something from the past, the Macho Man, for so many reasons, is going to be a bit flashier to them. And for the newer performers, they may try and duplicate or aspire to be something more like the Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan, who was, at one time unquestionably the biggest name in all of wrestling. So it's not that you're wrong, Tom. You're still the OG Fit Kid.
and to Hogan's credit, like, he never actually got to wrestle once he came to WWF and became the champion like he did in Japan. His matches before he was in WWF were much different than the style he took on once he got there. He became a very one-dimensional, you knew exactly what he was going to do. Like, he was actually a much better wrestler than what we saw once he started his Hulkamania.
1,000%.
Yeah, and last thing off of what you're saying, Tom, I think he did get a bit one-dimensional, but at the same time, I feel like the one thing no one really credits Hogan for is that guy would sell his ass off.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, people,
100%.
He wouldn't put somebody over. he would hardly ever let anyone win, but in the body of the match, no one could sell like Hogan.
Yep.
I'll make you look good, brother.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to our second topic. This is a topic that Scott brought to us, and I'll let you introduce this topic, Scott.
All right, so this is a pretty hot topic within the wrestling figure community. And I wanted to give you guys a little bit of context, but the theme here, the question is, are there too many Codys in the AEW Unrivaled series? So without even going over all of them, by series 4, there were technically 7 or 8 Codys, really depending upon how you looked at it, because they have a regular version and then they have a limited run, a different attire, which is like a chase. There was a United Kingdom Cody exclusive, and there's also now been 3 ringside collectibles exclusives. If you compare and contrast that to the WWE side of things, say WWE Mattel Elite, if you look at just 1 through 4, John Cena got 1 figure, Batista got 1 figure, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, The Undertaker, Kane, Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, and the list goes on. So I wanted to let you guys kind of start and talk about this because Mike and I have talked about it extensively, and a lot of people that are hardcore nerds into this, like Mike and I are debating this right now. And it's simply put, are there too many Codys?
I'm going to go with no, only because in the actual line, he's only been in 2 series with the chase. The other ones are special orders to ringside or with the rings, so I don't really, it's only 2 if you look at 4 if you include the chases, but you're not forced to get the chase. In the actual line, there's really only 2. So like those are bonuses. If you don't want to get them, don't get them. And AEW is coming into a point where a lot of people didn't know a lot of the guys. Like, they know a lot of the guys in the line, but to get that line started, you need to see familiar faces in there. And now it's getting to the point where you know the people. I hope they start spreading it out a little more. But I think no.
That's what I was going to say, going off of what you said, Tom. I think the big difference between judging the first 4 series of Unrivaled against Mattel Elite is when Mattel Elite started, WWE was well-oiled machine. Everyone knew every character, so you could spread it out and people would still go buy that fig because they know who it is. With Unrivaled, I feel like they've done a very calculated move of every series. I feel like they stick 1, 2, 3 people in there that are way more established, whether it's a Jericho or Moxley being in there twice. So I think I think that's why we see that. I don't think there's too many Codys. Being a hardcore AEW fan, I would rather see other people, but I get the business decision behind Jeremy Padawer and the way they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and I see that too. As a completist, like I try to be a completist with AEW. I really wanted to be, but the amount of Codys that were coming out at that point, to me, it just seemed like there were too many. It seemed like there were, with the exclusives and everything, as a completist, that makes it really tough to want to continue and have all of these Codys in your collection. And I mean, I know there's gear changes, but a lot of them still looked exactly the same. And that's what made me think that there were too many in the line.
Sounds like for the most part, we're all in agreement. It was touched on a little bit, but when you go back and look at the roster in 2010, I don't even think that WWE in 2021 could compete with their roster in 2010 in terms of star power.
Right.
So it's not a really fair comparison. And you guys are right. There's definitely a lot of business decisions that go into this being made. With it being a new line, they wanted to be picked up by the Walmarts, the Targets of the world. So you have to have those stars in there. I will say that there are a lot of collectors who, and it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. They want them to go deeper into the roster. And as much as I love, and I'm not going to name anyone by names because I don't want to insult anyone, but 3/4 at least of that roster, who I love, are not unfortunately at a point where they can sell as many action figures to the casual fans, the casual collectors, especially the parents, I think, that've never seen AEW. They might know who Cody Rhodes is. They might know who Jericho is. So that's the real reason behind it. But you guys would be surprised, or maybe not surprised, how much crap Jeremy Padawer and those guys get for Cody Rhodes, specifically Cody.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess if I were to be critical of the Cody stuff, my big thing, it's like Sneed said, there's some that it's like the variation just seems to be just the tights, like a different pair of tights. It's not a big. Now, if they were to bring out, say, the Cody Rhodes when he came back to face Brody Lee and he had the burgundy suit on with the black hair, that would be such I need that figure. It's totally different. There was a drastic change. But Tom, what were you going to say?
I was going to say Britt Baker would have something to say about there's too many Codys out or not. And I want a Britt Baker figure, damn it.
I hope they do a lights out version like they did the Blood Brothers.
That would be awesome.
Oh yeah.
A bloody Britt Baker for sure. Sneed, I was going to ask you specifically. So the amount of Codys has impacted your desire to complete this line. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah, kinda. It kind of has. Yeah, because it was just the amount of it wasn't enough of a change for me to want to get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Was that the only thing, Sneed, or are there other factors?
There's the other factors for sure. I mean, obviously the distribution problems that they were having in the beginning. It was tough to find them in store. But I mean, that's a big part of it. That was the thing that kind of killed it for me too. Because when it first was announced they had a toy line coming out, we were like, "Oh, we're going to get every single one of them." And then I have the Blood Brothers figure. I'll do ringside a little bit, but to me, part of the fun of collecting is the chase. Going into the wild and going into that store and finding that one thing. I get where if you're a completist and you order off of ringside, but for me, I like the chase. Yeah.
I hate the chase. Mark it down. We have another debate. We have another debate topic. Mark it down.
Yeah. Is it better to find figures in stores at Walmarts and Targets, or is it better to buy them online?
I like finding them in stores. I like the chase.
I get ringside's great. If you're a completist, you almost have to go through ringside because it's impossible to find everything on the shelf.
But what's a better feeling than walking into the store and seeing a fresh display of figures that you need?
It's awesome, but it doesn't happen anywhere anymore. Like, it's so rare since Toys R Us has been gone, it's just terrible. And just to tell Scott, like, I tapped out after seeing a lineup for Series 6, seeing that there were 4 people that were being redone in Series
See,
6
I didn't
already.
mind that. I thought the people that they were redoing made sense to me.
No, we don't need another. Like, unless MJF is in a suit, we don't need another MJF because he wears the
But he
same
could
thing.
be in a suit.
Well, then it'll be awesome.
And the Pentagon Phoenix, I feel like they are tailor made for multiple figures.
Oh yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, they always wear different attire. That's going to be that line's Rey Mysterio, or actually, I can't think of anyone better to compare than Rey Mysterio. I was going to ask you guys really quick though, because it was brought up, and it's kind of an interesting thought. All of us are roughly about the same age, in the same age range. We all grew up in a time where we went to Toys R Us and KB Toys and things like that. Even
Tom's
the OG.
Tom's a lot older. Tom's a lot older.
Yeah. Well, Tom remembers the time where we were all into that. Do you think that our age has anything to do with our desire of finding them in the wild? Like if we had, say, like a 16-year-old, do you think they would think that we're crazy for not ordering things on ringside? Because I understand what you guys are saying.
100%. I have a story that's burnt into my head. There was a department store around where we grew up called Hills. And their tagline was "Hills is where the toys are." So my mom would take me there to look for figures. I still to this day remember going there, and the figure I wanted was the Sid Vicious Galoob. And it wasn't on the shelf. And there were double doors that went back into their stock room. And I remember my mom walking up to someone who worked there and said, "Can you go in the back and check?" And this is back when they would actually go back and check for you.
Yeah, when they tried.
When they tried.
Yeah.
And I remember waiting. I was probably 6, 7 years old, waiting and seeing those doors swing back open, and the worker had the Sid Vicious. And I was just like fist pumping, so excited. Like people today, you lose that by just ordering offline. There's something about that feeling of the search, the hunt.
Thrill.
Yeah.
It's a thrill.
I mean, I agree. When I was looking for the last Legend set and I went to Target and I asked somebody if they had them in the back and they came out with them, like, you do get that rush. But I haven't had that rush since Toys R Us closed. Like, my wife used to laugh at me if we walked into Toys R Us. Like, as I would get closer to the aisle, I would start walking faster and faster. But now the way Target and Walmart's are, like, that's totally gone from me right now. Like, there's, like, in Toys R Us, she would laugh. She's like, "You're like a little kid going there." I'm like, because I felt like that, but it's been gone for a couple of years. So.
Totally.
There's rumors that Toys R Us may be coming back, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
We had one. I'm near Houston. I'm about an hour outside of Houston. And we had one. Gosh, my girlfriend and I moved here like 8 months ago, and I've physically been to it, but it just closed like a month ago.
Oh,
the one that was open that I physically went to just closed. So I don't know if the owner, the guy that's taken over, is going to reopen that one or reopen a bunch of ones, or maybe they're closing all of them to relaunch again. But I'll tell you guys, as someone that's been to Toys R Us, at least here in America in the last 6 or so months, I hope that it's like it's how it was when we were kids, because when I went, it was. I mean, I have to say Walmart and Target are better in terms of selection. Like, you'd be surprised. It was very limited, not just for wrestling, but for anything. Marvel, DC, I assume Barbie, like all that stuff. It was just a very, very small amount. And it's not like a lot of people were shopping there and things were flying off the shelves. It was just a very small selection.
See, I was going to say Walmart and Target kind of killed the idea for me going to the store, because just going in every time and being disappointed.
See, for me, we didn't have like Toys R Us. For me, as a kid, I didn't have Toys R Us.
It's KB.
It was KB Toys and Hills.
I had a KB as well.
Yeah, we had KB over here too.
It was a once a year treat for us to go to Toys R Us because it was a little bit of a drive from us, and we did eventually get a Toys R Us here. And KB, we were adults at that time, but
KB used to have the 3 for $10 sell Galoob and Hasbro's. It's like
the deals were insane
for $10.
And in the more like later 90s, they would do like the KB Toys exclusives. So there were various box sets if you're into like WWF and WCW. Right. I bought all of my ECW original San Francisco toy makers, the whole first and second series from KB Toys. And I lost my mind. Being the first, like Bubba Ray Dudley and Devon Dudley for the first time, man, to have those toys.
Yeah.
Unreal, dude.
Taz.
Taz. Oh yeah, of course. Taz, Sabu. So many great first time in lines. I'm huge into the ECW original San Francisco Toy Makers line. I'm also a big Lance Storm fan because by this point in my fandom of wrestling, I started out just being super into like Sting and the Ultimate Warrior and guys like that. But by the time I was, 12, I was all like pretentious. Like Lance Storm is the best technical wrestler. I couldn't appreciate Hogan at 12. In 20, I could. But yeah, man, love that stuff.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Any final thoughts on that topic before we move on?
No, I think we did a pretty good job.
All right. So we'll move on to our final topic of the evening. If the Click's curtain call never went down, would the Stone Cold era still have happened?
Absolutely.
It's an amazing question.
I think it would have.
I wonder because he doesn't cut that 316 promo.
Very true.
Like it's a really, when you think about everything and I followed it, like did Austin, like I would love to sit down and talk to Austin about this and see if he knew where he wanted to go with the character, or is that something he came up with when he found out he was winning? Like we know he said he just came up with the Austin 316 as he was cutting the promo. Like, so it's amazing. Like I can't honestly answer that. I would think he was going to go in that direction anyway. I would like to hope so, but it's crazy to think about. You got to thank the Click for Stone Cold.
I mean, I'm just going to say, I don't think it would have. If he didn't cut that 316 promo, I think he would have maybe even stuck with $1 Million Man for a little bit, been the ringmaster, and then he probably would have got put into another gimmick.
I wonder how, I know we're focusing on Austin, but I wanted to just kind of think out loud for a moment. I wonder how it would have impacted Triple H, because in 1995, the year before, King Mabel became King Mabel and won the King of the Ring. He would go on to SummerSlam and, main event with Diesel. But by WrestleMania the next year, I mean, he was kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
And the Hunter Hearst Helmsley gimmick, even though in a way I kind of like it now, I wasn't much of a fan of it as a kid. And I don't know if it was really kind of, quote, getting him over. So I wonder if Triple H had actually won that King of the Ring, if the curtain call wouldn't have occurred, or maybe if he just wouldn't have been punished, and they would have tried to push that character to the moon, and let's say it didn't get over, they never kind of changed him up. How would it have negatively impacted Triple H? Because they would have maybe forced him down your throat and it just wouldn't have worked. And you know how Vince can get sometimes when something isn't working, maybe he wouldn't have switched up the Triple H character. Maybe there would have been no DX. Not to totally make it about Triple H, but it's just a thought.
No, it's a great point. It's another excellent point because it all stems from this. So,
it's like the butterfly effect. One little thing could change. Like I was thinking the same thing before you said it, Scott, about if he would have got pushed, does DX happen?
Right.
Does the Attitude Era happen? Does the whole Attitude Era happen?
Exactly. My reasoning for saying the Stone Cold era would still have happened is, now I'm not sure the Austin 316 era happens, but the Stone Cold character was getting over without that promo. He was already in kind of chirping back and forth with Bret Hart. There was like things were rolling, and I feel like, if you look back to those promos when Steve was in that buffer zone between WCW and WWE, when he had that tiny little stint in ECW, this guy was just on the verge of stardom. He had something in his promos, and I feel like, that Austin, maybe he doesn't win the King of the Ring. Maybe he doesn't cut that promo and the Austin 316 era doesn't happen, but he would have cut another promo. He would have done something because Stone Cold was on a path to stardom to me. Like
he just needed a moment.
Undeniable.
I mean, that's an excellent point because those ECW promos really were more like
Unreal.
What he became. Those were really amazing. So, like, just the whole Vince wanting to shove a ringmaster down our throats. I mean, even Stone Cold I think he was interviewing Sasha Banks on a Broken Skull Sessions, was talking about, like, he never really found himself until Austin 316 and the Stone Cold thing. Like, he never found, like, he said he didn't connect with the character till he became
That's another thing too. I mean, if he He was cutting those promos in ECW. Would Vince have allowed him to go through and do promos like that if he didn't have the Austin 316 moment?
Yeah. I think Austin, to everyone's point, Austin would have somehow still happened. Even it may not have been the 316, but all he needed was an opportunity. All he needed was a moment. I guess going back to what I was saying earlier, I would be more concerned for Triple H, oddly enough, if he won the King of the Ring than I would for Triple H. Or sorry, than I would for Stone Cold Steve Austin.
No, you're not wrong.
Does he marry Stephanie?
Yeah. Does he marry Stephanie? That's a great. It's probably released before then.
Does NXT happen? There's like a butterfly effect just from him. That curtain call could have changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
Listening. Going back to the Broken Skull sessions, I don't know if you guys watch it, but like watching him on that show makes me love him even more, because you see how much he loves wrestling and he still studies it and he still has a passion for it. And like, to me, like he had it in him. So I think it was going to come out at some point. I would like to think that.
I mean, look, to me, it's crazy because if you really look at Stone Cold Steve Austin, arguably today he's bigger than any other wrestler before him as far as just beloved by the business itself. Obviously The Rock, his stardom is bigger, but it's outside of pro wrestling that's kind of created that. But when it comes to just being beloved by the pro wrestling community, I feel like Stone Cold has surpassed Hogan. He's became that guy. And what's crazy about it to me, and the reason I think that he would have happened regardless of the curtain call not happening, is he didn't have this long extended run. His run was very small.
It's like 2 years or something.
Yeah. I mean, he got hurt. He retired way before his time. And it's really honestly impressive what he did in the amount of time he did it.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with
that.
And
to think Vince calls him the greatest superstar of all time. How much money did he make Vince in that time? For Vince to say that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I love to sit and play that game as what could have happened or what would have happened. I'm just glad that it did happen the way that it did.
100%.
Because I feel like that's that kind of shaped everything. I mean, it's crazy to think that one moment shaped everything that we saw in the Attitude Era.
And to go back about moments happening that aren't supposed to happen, like to think that probably the best storyline WWE has had in the last few years was when the plane was late and they had to have the NXT fly into SmackDown and do the invasion kind of thing for the Survivor Series.
Plane.
Like that wasn't supposed to happen, and they haven't done anything even close to as entertaining as that since then, and that wasn't even planned. So
you got Adam Cole and Daniel Bryan just tearing it down.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yep. So
little moments like that make things, you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just fun to think about what could have been if this hadn't happened or that, but just the way it happened, if you can talk destiny, fate, it felt like everything happened the way it was meant to, and everyone came out of that situation better for it. I feel like the fact that Triple H was put on that back burner when Steve got injured and The Rock started dabbling in the Scorpion King and all of those early movies, that was his chance to step up, and he was kind of primed at that moment. So it's almost like if Triple H would have gotten bigger before his time, is there room for him at that moment when you've got Stone Cold and The Rock just firing? It's fun to think about.
Well, I don't think it worked out so well for everybody that was involved because Jake didn't benefit from it much at all.
That's true.
Jake still.
He's
in
back,
a baggy shirt and a baggy.
Redemption.
The baggy shirt and the baggy pants. Like, what was that?
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah. Well, Austin 316 whooped his ass. That's what happened. That's what we saw happen.
You got your songs.
We cut it off, Scott. Go ahead and say it.
You got your Psalms. You got your John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says I just whipped your ass.
Yeah, perfect. So good.
That's awesome.
And the
my girlfriend's like, what the hell is going on right now?
We're just cutting promos in here. Don't worry about it.
I'm talking about wrestling, baby.
Yeah, wrestling.
You're in Texas now.
That's right. I've adopted the accent and everything.
It's crazy though that the curtain call really did kind of shape everything. Even WCW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. The outsiders.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we close it up?
Nope.
Fun show. Great.
Yeah, Scott,
really
great
good
having you on. You
Dude,
always,
it was a blast.
yeah, you always, I mean, you have an open invitation anytime you want to come on.
Yeah, and we got to get Mike Belcaster on here eventually.
You got to get him on here. Though I'll tell you, Mike's a lot sweeter than I am. So it won't be much of a debate. I'm just going to be like, yeah, you guys are right. Yeah.
So yeah, find Scott at Pyramid Wrestling. Go find at Pod Foundation. You can find all of us on there. The Pyramid Wrestling, Extra Cooler Show, Chick Foley, and Turnbuckle Tavern.
Tom, tell them where they can find you.
right here in my basement. No, Wrestling Fig Fed on Twitter and Instagram. Search Wrestling Figure Federation on all your favorite podcast apps. The new episode will be out Monday.
Right. Court is dismissed.